Here's my little arsenal for cleaning carburetors. I've got the 1 gallon can of carb cleaner with the dipping basket for soaking parts, can of carb cleaner with the straw on it for squirting directly into passages, pipe cleaner, welding tip cleaners. These are a series of fine wires, all different sizes, that are great for getting passages clean. You just want to make sure you don't force a wire that's oversized into a jet, because if it's a soft brass jet you could damage it. Several screwdrivers of different sizes, and the trick is to find the one with the blade that's going to fit the best when you're engaging one of those jets that's stuck in there, so that you can try and get it out without destroying it. And sometimes you can even take an old screwdriver and grind a profile on it so it fits perfectly. I've done that before. And also I got my Dremel tool with a little tiny wire brush on it, and I'm going to use that for cleaning up this heavy rust in here. Yeah, now that's already looking a lot better. I've removed the 2 tiny screws that hold this throttle butterfly in, so I can remove the throttle shaft, because this feels really sloppy to me, and I think that this packing here is going to be all worn out, and that's important, because if that's really badly worn, the carburetor will try and suck air through that leakage, and you'll get a very lean mixture when you don't want it. So just take that out. Clean up the shaft, and see what I can find in the way of packing to replace that. Okay, I was able to get all the jets out, and I ran all the passages with either my pipe cleaner or my tip cleaners here, and feel that I've got it pretty clean now, but just for good measure I'm going to give it a soak in this carburetor cleaner bath while I go to work. And while I'm out, I'll stop at the hardware store or auto parts store, and I'll see if I can't find an O-ring. This is that packing that was on that throttle shaft. It's actually behind a little brass insert, but I was able to pick it out with my pick, and it's kind of dry rotted, so I'm not going to be able to find this packing. But what I can do is I can probably find kind of a fat O-ring that will fit. I'll take the throttle shaft with me. I'll find a nice fat O-ring that'll fit nice on the shaft and still be able to fit inside there, and use that. Well, parts have been soaking all day. Now it's mid-afternoon, and I've got some time, so I'm going to put the carburetor back together. Well, float cleaned up nice, and good news is it's been sitting in that dip all afternoon, and there's no sign of any liquid inside of it, so I'd say the float's good. This carb cleaner really does a great job. I mean, that's nice and shiny and clean as a whistle in there. Same thing with the float needle and all of the jets, many of which I already reinstalled. So the only drawback is it completely attacks the paint job. This OD green military paint that's on the outside of the carburetor is all bubbled up and flaking off, and I've got to make sure that that doesn't get inside any of the passages. So I'm spraying it with the carb cleaner to rinse it off as I'm reassembling it. Well, the little brass ID tag on this Zenith carburetor cleaned up really well, so I can see the number on it. So I'm going to make note of the numbers on this carburetor just for future reference in case I do decide to keep it for my my other Earthmaster tractor. Let's see. Zenith made in USA, 1B is stamped on the throat of the carburetor, but then up here you've got a 60605 and then a 12357, and then looks like there's a CS after the first number, so it's 60605 space C is in Charlie, S is in Sierra, and then in the second row there's the numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. Alright, I installed the air fuel mixture screw. I let it bottom out softly, and then I backed it out 1.5 turns. I'm going to use that as my initial starting point for adjustment. And now I've got to deal with this packing situation. I couldn't find any O-rings that I really liked as far as to replace that completely. So what I did do is I did find a small O-ring that fits that diameter, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and use that to supplement that packing. So I'm going to put that original packing back in, and then I'm going to see if I can't get that O-ring to sit in front of it. In retrospect, I think it's going to be better to try and have the O-ring in front on the outside here. So I've got the packing back in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and tuck this O-ring in there between the back of this metal right here and the front of that packing. If I can get that to stay in there and then slide the shaft in, it might work. Well, you probably can't see it, but it's in there, tucked right in. So now when I slide this shaft in, that O-ring will be on there and it'll give it a little bit of extra sealing power. Alright, carb's all reassembled. Let's throw it back in and see what happens. Alright, carb's back in, and this time I remembered to lift this rod up as I was putting the carb in because it's kind of hard to get it to clear this mess over here. And the reason why I want this in the up position is because then I can put it through the back side of this hole right here, and that's how the linkage for this throttle was hooked up. On the original Earthmaster setup, this rod comes almost like straight across, and there's a bump in it that goes around the distributor, and then it comes straight across and it goes to the no, actually I think it goes straight across. It goes straight across behind the carburetor, I think, and goes over to a lever here on the governor on the N62 Continental, and then on that governor there's another rod that comes over like this, has a bump that goes over the distributor, which is about here, and then goes to the throttle. But who cares? Well, if I get this started, now that I think about it, it's going to be interesting to see how this acts as far as throttle wise, because this is the low speed stop, I think, right here, or your idle setting. So in theory, once the engine starts running, this governor lever should move over and pull the throttle closed, but this spring right here is pulling it back, and that's controlled by this arm and this setting right here. So this must be your RPM adjustment for when this motor was in the generator. So ironically, that's going to be wanting to pull that up to a high RPM. So this lever being held over by the throttle in the low position is probably the only really control you have to make this thing idle. And I guess I'll worry about that if I actually get it started. Seems like I'm constantly in a battle and trying to keep my gas from getting contaminated. Contaminated gas that I just took out of this can, which I'd filled from one of my two cans over there, but that can obviously got water in it. Good clean gas that I got out of the other can. So this is what I'm going to put in. So no wonder why I'm getting a little bit of smoke out of this thing, but no start. So much water in the fuel, it's barely volatile. Alright, let's try this again. Man, that start is driving me crazy. Still won't start. So I removed this little plug here in the intake manifold. I'm going to spray a shot of starting fluid right in there. I checked and I still have spark. Alright, let's see. Damn it. Boy. You know, I numbered these plug wires in the way that I took them off. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I wonder if the firing order was wrong on this when I got it, because I never saw this run. Makes me wonder.